first edition of the Nahar Jeeto Bookathon, presented in association with the Raisoni Foundation. My name is Afra Iqbal, and in today's session, we shall be exploring the book The Royal Scandal by Miss Rrashima Swaarup Verma. The Royal Scandal is a true tale of love, war, and politics from India's rich history. It is intensely researched with information and facts derived from primary sources. It is also endorsed by leading historians, archaeologists, scholars, and authors. It was also awarded the PVLF Author Excellence Award 2024 for the Best Non-Fiction Book of the Year. The author and our speaker for today, Ms. Rrashima Verma, has over 20 years of experience in the corporate world with over 15 years at senior management levels. She is currently the Senior Director with a global business research and strategic consulting organization. Rrashima has a deep understanding of the different facets of business research, including market assessments, entry strategies, competitive intelligence and benchmarking, customer analysis, mergers and acquisitions, and so on. The session will be moderated by Mr. Abhijit Bhalerao, who is an author, translator, speaker, and visual artist. His recently published book, The Man Who Avenged Bhagat Singh, has been well received throughout the country. He has been recognized for his research into Shaheed Bhagat Singh's jail notebook, which he also translated into Marathi. Abhijit also shares his insights on Maratha war strategy and tactics as a visiting faculty at the Mumbai University. He is passionate about exploring literature, history, and art. With this, I'd now like to hand over the session to our moderator.
Now, the topic of today's discussion is The Royal Scandal. It is a wonderful book. Basically, I'll tell you what the book is about. It's a love story that changed the power dynamics in the British India. It is Rrashima's second book. It's an immaculately researched historical non-fiction that has been endorsed by leading historians, scholars, and authors, including myself. The book has been widely covered by the media, is critically acclaimed, and was awarded the PVLF Author Excellence Award of 2024 in the category of Best Non-Fiction English. Now, enough by me, and we'll get to the author first. Rrashima, please tell me what are the main themes of the Royal Scandal?
Thank you for the very kind introduction, Abhijit. So yes, The Royal Scandal, I will summarize by first saying that it is a book, I think, that really needed to be written. And we've explored various themes in this book. As you know, there is a love story, which is the focal point of the book. There is also politics, the politics that happened, you could say, primarily as a part of the love, it was a cause and effect relationship that the political scenario had with the love story. And of course, there are several wars also that happen in the backdrop. Now, the theme of this book really is something that I explored with a lot of passion because I enjoy writing, history. I enjoy writing about something that has truly occurred, like a true tale, rather than, something. Of course, there is creativity in this also. But at the end of the day, I enjoy bringing out something that happened, like a past incident. I feel that history truly shapes the way our future looks, and it's very important for us to understand what happened, why it happened, when it happened, how it happened. So yes, the focal point of the book is history, a historical incident which we, research and we explore and then we bring out to our contemporary readers. Yeah, so it's love, war, and politics.
Yes. So basically, when I first picked your book, the first impression was that this is medieval Veer Zara. And when I read into it, it
Yeah.
was much more interesting that it could be a full-fledged web series. So I'm really looking forward to it. So my next question for you is, what inspired you to write The Royal Scandal? And more importantly, how do you hope it will impact readers' learning experiences?
Right. See, the inspiration of writing the book really came from my literary agent, Suhail Mathur of the Bookmaker. So he's the one who told me about this true tale of love, war, and politics that happened in the late 17th, early 18th century. And when he brought the story to me, I read a little bit about it and then, I was hooked. I mean, it was such a fascinating and riveting tale that I just had to, I knew I had to write it. And he told me that, in his words, he said that, you're probably the best person to write this book. So I made a clean dive into it, and I think for about a year. So, the real taking here for my readers would be two things. One
Hmm.
is, I think, the art of research, because as you also know, I think I am somebody who's very dedicated to doing justice, particularly if I'm writing about a true story. So I did intense research, and it's also my profession. Research is my profession, it's my
Yes.
primary job. I am a strategic research consultant by profession. So I took it on as a challenge. And the more I actually went into it, I realized that, there is a lot of information available. We just need to tap it. And once we tap it, then there is, of course, the interpretation of it. So that's the second learning, I think. History is interpretation. I mean, the
Yes.
same thing can be interpreted in two different ways by different people.
Hmm.
So if you're looking at something like the royal scandal, I mean, this particular story about James Achilles Kirkpatrick and Caronissa,
Hmm.
two different people will interpret it differently. And me being a romantic, for me, I think it was the intense love that they had for each other, which really set the story apart. And yeah, I think I would want my readers to understand there are a lot of footnotes available in the book. Every source that we tapped into has been provided. So I would love my readers to actually go into those sources and
Hmm.
understand how the research was conducted. It wasn't easy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my next question to you is, please describe the writing process for the Royal Scandal, as this is a non-fiction, historical non-fiction, but
Yeah.
while reading it, it gives you a flavor of a full-fledged novel.
Yeah.
But while reading it, we see footnotes on almost every page.
Yeah.
So basically, it's a marriage of research and the writing style, the narration.
Yeah.
So please describe the writing process for
Sure.
the aspiring writers.
Sure. Thank you for that question. I think ultimately, at the end of the day, as authors, what we want to do is we want to keep our readers hooked, right? We want our readers to
Yes.
be a part of the story, and we want them to be very interested in what's going on. So we want them to keep turning the pages. That is, I think, the sole aim of every author. And as a
Hmm.
historical nonfiction writer, for me, it was also very important to stay true to facts. I wanted to make sure that what I'm putting down there for my readers is information that has been drawn from reliable sources.
Hmm.
So these were the two things. And like you said, it was a marriage. I think the narration has a lot of conversation, if you see, and that is what keeps it
Yes.
really interesting.
Ah.
So there are three things I think that play a part here. One is, of course, pulling out the information, the research.
Hmm.
The second is creativity. So my own imagination and my own creativity. For example, if I know that these two primary characters met at a royal wedding and they saw
Yes.
each other for the first time and they instantly fell in love. Now I
Hmm.
have to actually close my eyes and take myself back, sort of envision, and create in my mind how that scene actually.
Hmm.
And then once I have imagined and created it for myself, I have to put it into words that will stay with my reader. So describe the scene. Descriptive writing is something that I really put myself into in this particular book. I believe in in the art of descriptive writing. And I
Yes.
feel that that is the only way that we can paint a beautiful picture. And there's a lot of beauty in history. So historical
Yes.
books
Yes.
have to be written in a way that is descriptive. So yeah, that's how we did it. And I think my
And
editor and I constantly worked on this. Stuti Sharma Gupta of Srishti
yes. Ah.
Publishers. She and I, made sure that it was a good balance of a lot of information, proper, accurate information, and descriptive narration.
And it works, and it works for a reader. I mean, if the reader is even if he is a non-technical person, he is not interested in history also, he will be
Yeah.
hooked to it, taken apart the factual things, he will be hooked into the story, and that how the book wins. So
Yes.
my next question to you is, what are the primary educational themes in your book? And why did you choose to focus on this? And how can this book contribute to readers' personal and professional development?
See, at the end of the day, I think it's a historical book. Okay, so the
Yes.
first thing here that we're trying to do is we're trying to, sort of convey the message that history is important. And, accurate portrayal of history is important.
Hmm,
One
hmm,
of the
hmm.
tools is, again, research. And I think it's very important for every author to conduct adequate, accurate research. So that is something I would want, whether it is a student who's reading the book, whether it is, a professional who's reading the book, apply the same dedication when you're doing your work, because every job, every profession requires research. Even in my own
Yes.
consulting, business, what I realize is when I'm giving information to a client, because what we do is strategic business research. We're giving them strategies, say for the next 5 years or the next 10 years, business strategies that they will adopt to improve their overall performance. We can't do that without research. We have to understand the
Yes.
market. Yeah, I mean, we've got to understand their customers, the psyche of their competitors, the market scenario. That is the only way we can help them to strategize. So I think what people will understand from this book is always get your facts and your information right, whatever your profession may be. Information and
Yes.
research, the importance of it cannot be undermined.
Yes. So, are there any interesting anecdotes or behind the scenes stories from your research and writing journey? Please tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's something very interesting here. So this takes me back to the time when Sohail brought this story to me, and how he actually got to know about it was through, a documentary film that he saw on this channel about, some of the unexplored love stories, the true unexplored love stories from the Indian subcontinent. So there was this one was covered, and there was this gentleman who was interviewed, Dr. Shankar Kumar. He actually is, head of the history department at Hindu College in Delhi University. And when I saw his interview, I really got this urge to talk to him because he was obviously so knowledgeable about this particular tale. So I picked up the phone, and this is something I do all the time in my primary work. Also, I'm very comfortable picking up the phone and calling strangers, for information. So I just picked up the phone and I called the college. I didn't have Dr. Shankar's mobile number. I called the college. And when you tell people that you're an author who's trying to bring out, a story from Indian history, people are very accommodating. So
Yes, yes.
I was very
Same with me.
lucky. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You must have also
Hmm.
seen that. So Dr. Shankar, I was able to get through to him, and when he got to know why I'm writing and what I'm writing, he was intrigued, and I think we just became friends. This was in the middle of the pandemic, by the way, so I couldn't really meet him. And we must have spoken at least 20-25 times during the course of that book. And he
Oh.
gave me so much time. After the pandemic got over, and he actually invited Sohail and me to come visit him at his college. So we went and conducted a workshop for his history students. And then he took us to this sports ground. He took us for a tour around the college. He took us to the sports ground and he took me to this spot and he said, Rashima, this is where I spoke to you for the first time. So this is where I was standing when you called me. So it was a
Hmm.
very heartwarming experience for me.
So this is great. I should tell you something about your book. I belong to the area which is called Marathwada. You must have heard the name. And my area used to be the part of Nizam's empire. Okay, and it was the part of Hyderabad state.
Okay.
So basically, my great grandfather was a freedom fighter, and he fought against the Nizam's army. Uh, in family or in our area, we have a very bloody and violent past from Nizam
Okay.
because they were so, I don't know what the term actually is, but the rule was very barbaric for the people of my area and also to the Telangana also in the later period during the time of independence in the 20th century.
Right.
And you obviously know the Operation Polo by
Yes.
Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and how the Hyderabad got liberated. So that part of history is part of my family history also. But when I
Wow.
read your book, and it was so enlightening that we didn't even imagine that such kind of dimension was there to that
Yeah.
Nizam's family and the love story and the British angle and all that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was very enriching experience for me also.
I'm
So
so
my
happy that,
next question to you,
yeah.
yeah, please complete.
No, I'm just really happy that it has been able to touch lives and, it's touched
Yes.
people's hearts. That's what we want to do through our writing.
So my next question to you is, give us a brief about the core historical figures of your book and what roles do they exactly play in the narrative?
Right. So, of course, we have our protagonists. We have
Yes,
James Achilles Kirkpatrick, who was actually an East India officer, East India Company officer. And we have Begum Khairunisa. She was a Hyderabadi princess, and they are the protagonists of the book. They are the ones who saw each other, fell in love, and then, of course, defied everything to be with each other because, everyone opposed them. And it was a matter of their survival. It was a matter of his job. It was
yes,
a matter of her honor, and I think those were extremely critical things to just put on the side, and then decide that you want to follow a path that your heart has laid out for you.
yes,
So very brave people, both of them. Khairunisa particularly, I think, was immensely brave because she was a very, very young woman, when this happened. And she didn't belong to a society where women could, make their own decisions or choose for
yes,
themselves. So the fact that she had the courage to do that, and also the fact that she was supported and held up by a very strong tribe of women, including her grandmother, her mother, her best friend. These were women who I think were so strong in every way, and they had so much courage. So that was something which it really impacted me. It inspired me. So yes, these two characters, of course, and then there are a lot of important people from history. When we look at it, there was Arthur Wellesley, the Governor
yes,
General. At that
yes,
time, he was the Governor General of Bengal. And it's very interesting to read about, his role, the role that he played in the political dynamics, and how he impacted the outcome of this love story. His
mm,
decisions, his choices. So again, it was a cause and effect relationship. Then, of course, the Nizam. It was a benign time. I
yes,
think Hyderabad at that time was really at the zenith of its prosperity,
yes,
if you look at it.
prosperity, yes, yes,
So, reading about it'll be interesting for readers to understand, how the Darbar functioned, how
hmm,
politics really unfolded, what kind of people played a role, the Prime Minister, Arastu Ja, very interesting man. If you see,
hmm,
even the way he dressed, uh,
hmm,
I could literally envision him, and then I remember talking to my publisher, Arup Bose, and we were talking about, this particular character, Rastuja, and how interesting it would be to see somebody actually playing that role and what kind of
yes.
personality would suit. So, all
But
these things, I think, all these people, it makes
hmm,
a very rich reading experience. And which is why I took the route of descriptive writing because I couldn't do justice to these characters without, a proper
yes,
deep dive into their
and
appearances, into what really drove them, their motivations, all that.
yes. The special hook for me in this book was the character of Khair. You see that James was already coming from a progressive society,
Yeah,
so it was not a shock for him to fall in love with the princess. But for Khair to rose up from her circumstances and the way she has been raised up in a very traditional society, a
yeah,
proper Hyderabadi society, and how she rose up for her love and how brave this woman turns out to be, it's such a wonderful story that comes up. And the more important part is that this is true, that this has happened
yeah,
and in the medieval time.
yeah,
And what more interesting is not very much has been changed for the last 300 or 200 years. That is also so much integral. So, moving to the writing part of this book, how did you structure the narrative of the royal scandal to
yeah,
keep the readers engaged? So we know that there is a love story. We know there are two characters. One is a British man and the Indian princess,
yeah,
and this is the basic one-liner. So how
yeah,
did you structure the narrative to keep it engaging for the readers? Please enlighten us.
yeah. So, I feel that somebody who goes to a bookshop and picks up a historical non-fiction book is looking for two things. As somebody who's interested in history, they're looking for facts. They're looking to know what happened, why it happened, where it happened, when, and all that. But as contemporary readers, and this is something you will agree with, I think our attention spans have become very limited.
Very less,
So, yeah.
30 seconds.
So so it was very important, and I think there is also a word limit, for our
Yes.
books these days. We can't really write into thousands of pages. Keeping that in mind, I wanted it to read more like a story, rather than you could say a history book or a history textbook. I didn't want it to look like a history textbook. So how did I balance it? Well, I punctuated a lot of the narration with conversations
Hmm.
between the characters. I think dialogue and conversation is so important, because how do we really do justice to the characters if we don't allow them to speak?
Yes.
So
How to
you
bring
will
them alive.
see, yeah, and a lot of reviewers also got back to me and they said that they enjoyed the conversations between the two lovers.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, how do we know how they? Of course, there is a lot of thought, and so the conversations are two types. You have the conversations between people, and then you have those mental dialogue that goes on, in a character's mind. You'll see a lot of that in the book, where Claire is in an intense dialogue with herself, when she's thinking.
Hmm.
She's trying to resolve her inner conflict, and the same with James. So, yes, a
Yes.
lot of inner conflict, dialogue, conversation, and all the information, enough information to, which is why I think Dr. Shankar, when he endorsed the book, he said this is history writing with its moistness retained. That moistness only
Yes.
comes like this.
So, my next question to you is, do you see any parallels between the historical events you describe and the contemporary issue?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I feel today also it is really sad to see that the two people who fall in love have to seek so much approval from society and from other people. Because when like I said, I'm a romantic, and when you put a love story, to people who truly love each other, I think they have every right to make that decision for themselves. So we see
Hmm.
society hasn't really progressed there, right? There is a lot of moral policing that goes on, where everybody has a point of view here, and it's a very sad situation that we haven't allowed two
Hmm.
consenting adults to decide for themselves. There
Hmm.
is a lot of judgment, and there's a lot of that. So that is one. The second, of course, is the situation of women. I think uh, we have had this discussion so many times. I write a lot about women's issues also. A lot of that
Yes.
hasn't changed. We are still fighting the same causes: women's safety. When it comes to their rights, when it comes to gender equality, there's a lot of work still to be done.
Yeah, I'd say even if the James and Claire would have been alive today, the story would have been quite bit the same. What do you say?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. You definitely have a point there. I'm trying to think, but there's a lot that they would have to fight.
Yes.
It wouldn't be easy even today.
The fighting part would have been same, although the socio-economic angle and the technology would have helped them a lot
I don't know if it
to
would have helped,
communicate
huh?
with.
Sometimes technology does the reverse. It's a deterrent, so I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, maybe, but
Tracking them would have become very easy for their
yeah,
families, and
that part, yes, the technology could have been worse for that.
I mean all those beautiful secret meetings here and there
Yeah,
might
yeah,
not have
yeah.
been so easy.
That the technology has killed, I believe. The secret
Truly,
meeting, the letters have been killed by technology.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The
Yes.
letters, in their original
So
handwritings. In
my next
fact,
question,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, writing part is the most to be missed by this or next generation.
true.
So next question to you is, uh, I believe that this book will be adapted into a web series or a movie very soon. And if it is up to you to choose the cast, please let us know what's in your mind. Would you like to be cast in the lead roles and supporting roles?
You're talking about Bollywood actresses and actors.
Ah, you can. It's a free
I'll
shot.
I'll have to
Take
really give
Hollywood
it a
also.
lot. It'll be very difficult. I'll have to give it a lot of thought, because these are very intense
Okay.
characters. To be honest,
Yes.
for Karenissa, you would need a very young girl to play the role,
Hmm.
because Karen herself was very young. A young girl with a maturity about her, and there is a scene in which I have described her as somebody who can carry the weight of the world on her shoulders. That's the kind of person she was. So this will be something I can't really respond. I'll have to really give it so much careful thought. It has to be, they'll have to be fantastic artists who would be able to. Maybe I can actually pull out people from theater. I feel sometimes that
Yes.
theater artists do a brilliant job
Yes. Because there is so much stuff in there. There is so much personality that they have to act out. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
So moving towards the end of our discussion, I would like to ask you what are the key points you hope readers remember from our discussion today, and what underlying messages and themes do you hope that readers should take away from the Royal Scandal?
Yeah. So I'm just going to hold the book up so that everyone
Yeah,
can see which book we're talking
my
about.
copy too. Yes.
Yeah. So, Abhijit, first of all, I really want to thank three people, I think, who played a huge role in the journey of this book. Because since we're concluding this, and I want readers to also take certain things away, things that are important to me, or as the author of the book, things which I feel touched my heart. Now, before I do that, what has really touched my heart is the unconditional support and guidance that I actually received from Sohail, my literary agent, Arup Bose, my publisher at Srishti, and my editor Stuti. Because these three people, it was a team, the four of us, and I think there was so much consensus there where we all could see each other's points of view. Sometimes it's very difficult to do that, you know.
Yes.
Uh, I feel that the author's voice here, it was strong and steady. And the voice was strong and steady thanks to these three people, because
Yeah.
they had faith in me, as a writer. They felt that I was doing justice to this beautiful, beautiful tale from our history. And I got a lot of cooperation, support, and guidance. So a huge thank you to Sohail Mathur, Arup Bose, and Stuti Sharma Gupta for all the support. Now, for my readers, a lot of time has passed. A year and a half actually since the release. It doesn't
Yes.
feel that way, but yes. And everybody got back to me and said that the narration was heart touching. It was poignant. There was pathos. There was tragedy. There was a lot of emotion. But what they felt really set this book apart again was the research. They felt that
Yes.
I was very dedicated, and I feel that way too. That I literally stepped into that time. Sources of information have been given. We dug into archives. We spoke to people like Dr. Shankar. There's a lady called Dr. Aruna Pariti. Now, I must tell you about her because she actually heads
Okay.
the history department at Osmania University in Hyderabad.
Yes.
And
I
Osmania,
I, ho- I guess that she has also officially endorsed your book.
she has.
Yes.
She has. So Osmania University actually was the erstwhile British residency, which was built by James Kirkpatrick, the main character. He actually built that residency. There is a beautiful Zanana palace that he made for Khairul-Nisa. So I remember because when I spoke to Dr. Aruna Pariti, she was standing somewhere there in her college. Today it's a college,
Okay.
it's a women's university.
Mhm.
And she gave me so much information. She was with me through and through. So I have to give her credit for that. Then there were Persian scholars we spoke to because I
Mm.
needed a complete understanding of the Persian language. I had to do
Yes.
translations, and I needed to understand the culture. So I spoke to Persian scholars. I spoke to historians. I spoke to people who had covered, in contemporary journalism, who had covered certain incidents so many years later. Put it all together. Oh, yes, I connected with the British Library in London.
Oh.
I wanted, and we managed to pull out James Kirkpatrick's original will, which and
Wow.
it was his last will.
Mhm.
And there is a code here. You can actually access the will. So if you scan the code, it is there in the book.
Mhm.
It will take you back
Mhm.
to, that
Yes.
this is a rare historical document. So that is the kind of research we did. Other than everything else, we spoke to people from the Archaeological Survey of India, and put it all together. It all started coming together like a jigsaw puzzle. And I think it was a very, very exciting. So my key takeaway, I mean, what I want people to take away, history isn't boring. It's a very
Yes.
exciting thing. In fact, I feel what happened then was so much more fascinating than the lives we lead. My family had to tell me to step back into this time. I was so seeped into that era when I was writing. So history is not boring by any standard. It's a very, very fascinating and riveting subject. Research is something which you must always be completely dedicated to. It
Yes.
teaches you new things, you're able to paint an accurate picture. So ask questions. Don't be afraid to talk to people. People are nice. Overall, people are good, and they're always happy
Yes.
to help.
And before we close our session, I would like to urge the readers to please get a copy of The Royal Scandal. It's a wonderful book. Give it a read. I'm sure, I guarantee that you will like it. And
Thank you.
before we end our session, please, Rashima, do tell us about your latest book and if you could share any of your recent works.
Yeah, I mean, so my third book has just come out. That is also a non-fiction book. It's a book on parenting. That's more of a, you could say, in a lot of ways, it's an autobiography of my parenting experiences. So it's a very different subject. I am writing another book with the same team. So Srishti Publishers is bringing out a new book of mine as well, and that is again represented by the book bakers. That is also a historical non-fiction from Indian history, and that actually dates further back. It's from the
Oh,
16th
very interesting.
16th century. So again, it's been a the writing process has kept me hooked for the last 1 year. It's been an amazing, intriguing journey, and I hope that my readers will shower as much love on this as they have on this. This is a piece of my
Yes.
heart, truly a piece of my heart. So,
So, thank you very much. Thank you for sharing your insight with us today. And along with you, I thank you, the Nahar Jito Bookathon in association with the Raisoni Foundation. And I would urge reader to read The Royal Scandal and more books and uh, get in touch with Rashima and get a signed copy. It
thank you
will
so
help you.
much. Thank you,
Thank you.
Abhijit. It was such a pleasure. Thank you very much.